Ryan Murphy, I love you. You keep doing your thing. You keep making great television because this is another show that I am hooked on and I love you for it. Hey everyone, it's Shana from Pay Your Weight, and today I am going to be reviewing American Crime Story Season 2, Episode 1, The Men Who Love Vogue. This is about the assassination of Gianni Versace, and I have to admit, this is going to be different than the first season, which was about the O.J. Simpson trial, and because when Gianni Versace was murdered, I was 9 years old. I don't remember this happening per se, and so I don't know any of the details to the story, and I made a decision when I found out about it that I was not going to read up on anything. I did not want to know how this ended, any background on the characters. I am going into this season blind and just learning everything as basically the weeks go by and then the details come out. And this show is actually based on kind of like a tell-all book that was written by one of the investigative journalists who was researching this murder. And just so you have background on whether or not this book was accepted as true accounts by the family, it wasn't, just as they are not supporting this TV show, but they did support some of the casting decisions that was made with the characters. And so basically in the first episode, the series opens up with Andrew Cunanan, who is responsible for shooting Gianni Versace, who is well known as starting the fashion empire of Versace. And so we're introduced to this character, which is played by Darren Criss, and he's basically sitting on a beach. Clearly it looks like the man is going through something. And from the title of the episode, for episode 1, you see him pull out a Vogue book out of his book bag. And so it's kind of going through the recap of what happened between the two main characters of Andrew Cunanan, who was the shooter, and what Gianni Versace was doing the morning before he was murdered in front of his home that sits on Miami Beach. And so you're kind of going back and forth, and you want to learn more about, like, what is this guy going through right now? Obviously, it looks like he's really going through some mental issues at this point and is struggling with something, but you just don't know what. And it definitely makes you intrigued to learn more about the character. And so before the credits start, you see him walk up to Gianni as Gianni is walking back into the gate of his property, and he just shoots him cold blood. He pulls out a gun and just walked up to him and was just like, boom, okay. And I was like, wow, like, he just did it in broad daylight. Like, he just did not care. And, I was also like, why is your house, like, it's right there on the beach? And, I know it's a luxury hotel at this point, and I didn't realize that that's how close his property was and how easily accessible it is to random people who are out on the beach. So, and I don't know if back then, was it really that necessary, especially if you're a fashion designer? Did you have the threat of security or someone crazy like coming up to you and shooting you? I don't know if that's how it was back in the late 90s when this happened, but I just thought that was like a little weird to me. But so after that happens, it kind of cuts. The episode basically goes back and forth between the current events of what is happening after Gianni is shot, who finds him, the police response to get to him going to the hospital or whatnot. And it's going back and forth between that and where the Andrew is like trying to like lay low or whatnot, and cutting between when Andrew and Gianni first met. And so it shows you that they meet at a nightclub, and Andrew, he was mad annoying. Like, the scene with him talking to Gianni, basically like stalking him to find him in this club to talk to him, I was just like, man, like, you are super annoying. So I'm really trying to figure out, what did Gianni see in you, and why wasn't he just annoyed and just dismiss you altogether? And then when Andrew keeps talking, I'm just like, he's like, oh, you know, my mother grew up here, and then like it relates to where Gianni like grew up and where his family grew up. And I'm like, damn, like, did he come for money? Like, oh, okay, maybe he came for money, and, you know, they from the same place back overseas. Like, you know, there's a connection. Like, hell, he had me believing the story. I was just sitting there like, oh, really? Okay, like, tell me more about your family. That's like, this Andrew kid is pretty damn interesting. Like, I can see why they were together. And then as you see him like telling this story to his friends, and it was like, then you find out he was lying about the whole thing. Like, his family ain't got no money. He didn't come for money. I was just like, wow, like, you slick with the tongue. Like, you dangerous, okay? He just dangerous. Outside of him being a murderer, he's just dangerous. Like, you just be making up stories and people really be believing it because you had me believing it. And that's basically because I don't know the backstory of these characters. And so you're kind of learning more about their interaction, and then you're seeing all the events take place after he shot, like, in front of his house. And then you have all these like people like standing around watching. Then you have these two crazy fans who had asked him for an autograph in the beginning of the episode, and then they took the page and dipped it in his blood. I was just like, contaminating the crime scene much? Like, police, ain't nobody watching and trying to tell them like, hey, stop it. I see people walking up and down the steps. It was just like, are y'all trying to protect the evidence right now, or do you guys just really not care? And even by how long he was laying on his front steps before somebody called an ambulance and the ambulance came to get him, I was just like, oh my God, like, this cannot be real. Like, this has to be over dramatized, you know, to just add more effect into what is going on. But then you find out that Gianni was, he was gay. And then you start to see, especially when you get into the police questioning his lover at the time, it was played by Ricky Martin, how they question him, the questions that they're asking is just like, what does this have to do with you actually making an effort to find this Andrew guy? And so then you start to see that there are going to be discussions regarding homophobia at the time, because this was in the late 90s, and it wasn't, you didn't hear as much of, you know, learning about the LGBT community and, you know, what was going on. It was a lot of just stereotypes as to what their lifestyles were, what they were doing. And so I'm interested to see how, you know, him being gay, how that played into the investigation with the police, the homophobia, like, were they as dedicated to really finding who murdered him? Was it important to them? Did they just not care? Did they even do what little they did just because he was kind of like a high profile victim at this point in time? So I'm interested to see how that kind of plays out as they try to solve this case, as they try to catch Andrew. And so I'm really interested to see that, and interested to learn more about Gianni's his background, like what he was doing. I really need to understand, like, how do we get to the point of you guys meeting at a club to this guy literally just coming to like shoot you? So that's pretty much the gist of the first episode. You kind of just, it's back and forth between the meeting and the events that are leading up after Gianni is murdered. And so let's get into the casting. I thought the casting for this was absolutely like amazing, okay? First and foremost, Edgar Ramirez, who plays Gianni Versace, he looks just like him. When I went to go look at pictures to kind of compare, like, what do these people look like in real life at that time, I was like, man, like, you guys really did that. Like, I was like, wow. Like, and like, because Edgar, I already think Edgar, he's so fine. Like, scrumptious, okay? But I really thought that he looked just like Gianni. Now, we got a Penelope Cruz as Donatella. So I went back because I was like, why does it sound like she has this list? Like, I can barely understand what she's saying. I was thinking, like, did they give her a bad, like, prosthetic, like, teeth or something? Did they make her have a list? Like, why does she sound so crazy in this accent? And then I went and watched a video of Donatella, and I was like, oh my God, she really talks like this. And then Penelope even said, like, in an interview with Ellen, that she actually reached out to Donatella, told her that she was interested in playing this role and she wanted to have her blessing to play her. And Donatella gave her her blessing and she agreed with the casting choice. And I think that's pretty cool, especially given that the family really doesn't support the portrayal of events to be factual for this TV series. So I thought that was really super cool. So Darren Criss, okay, so I know about Darren Criss from Glee, which is another Ryan Murphy show that I absolutely love with all my heart and soul. And baby, Darren, you're crazy. Like, you're seriously crazy. Because when he's kind of talking in like the nightclub when he meets Gianni, I was like, okay, this is kind of giving me like Glee feels a little bit. But then when he turns into just this crazy murderer, and there's a scene when like he goes to like this hotel lobby and he's looking on the TV screen at the news coverage of showing that Gianni Versace was murdered, and he looks at this woman who's kind of, you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And he kind of looks at her and smiles and just is like, I was like, this fool is really crazy. And I was like, Darren, it is nice to see you in a type of role like this. Like, I am really enjoying what he's bringing to this character. And I'm just as excited to learn about how, like, who is this Andrew kid? Like, what is his background? You find out that he's murdered other people. He's basically a gay man who doesn't tell people he's gay unless he knows you're gay, and he's murdered other gay men. And so that story alone is just crazy. You can tell that he's very conflicted and not comfortable with living his truth. And it's almost like he's murdering these people who openly express themselves as gay, and it's just like, I need to understand more of the psychology behind his character and kind of what is his background, how did he grow up, what was the relationship between them two, because like this fool is crazy. I'm really just trying to even understand, like, how did these two people even coexist to the point where he like would murder this man. So I think Darren Criss was absolutely fantastic with what he did in the first episode, and I can't wait to see more of how he develops his character throughout the season. Now, my favorite though, Ricky Martin, okay? Ricky Martin, I was like, yes! That scene where the cop is interrogating him, I was just like, Ricky, baby, I didn't know that you were like a good actor. Like, when I heard that he was playing this character, I was just like, I mean, it's odd, but, you know, I'm going to give it a shot. I don't really have any bad feelings towards him playing Gianni's partner. But when I saw him on screen and I saw the scenes, even with his interactions with Donatella, I was like, yes, like I am, look, you guys have me sold on this casting. I really enjoy this cast. And even, I think her name is Dasha. She's from Orange is the New Black. I see she's one of the detectives. I'm actually excited to see her on something different as well. And so I can't wait to see how kind of like with the police investigations we get to see more from her. But for the first episode, like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this season. I enjoy the fact that it's so different from the OJ trial, but it's different in a good way because I don't think that this was as highly publicized. It's not something that I remember being like everyday crazy news like OJ when I was growing up, and it could be just because I was so young. But I'm excited to watch something and watch the events unfold and really not have any background for it. And I think that Ryan Murphy, he has another hit TV show in his hand. I think this is a good follow-up to season 2. It's different from season 1, and I'm really interested to see how this season plays out. So those are my thoughts on the first episode. My name is Sharona Williams from Pay Your Weight, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and I will see you soon.